This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
It's Golden Sense in full flight for the wire over Flashback, and Golden Sense have won the Santa Ana Derby.
Orb have won the Kentucky Derby. First of the game. Will take charges surging, and it's a photo finish. It's too close to call.
And Animal Kingdom wins the Dubai World Cup.
Macho Man!
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Wednesday morning. I'm Seth Merrow. Thanks for joining us. A little bit later on, Jeremy Plonk, horseplayernow.com and Countdown to the Crown. We'll talk a little bit of three-year-old action from the past weekend. Also get some thoughts on this upcoming weekend, Wood Memorial Santa Anita Derby. Also, a little bit later on in the program, John Barile from the Tampa Bay Downs Handicapper, the Tampa Bay Downs Handicapper.com, where he makes selections every racing day during the Tampa meet. We'll get some of his thoughts for this afternoon at Tampa. All of that coming up on the program. Do want to remind folks, I've mentioned it already a couple times this week. I want to keep mentioning it, however. If you're a player in the Capital OTB Handicapping Series, and even if you're not, put it on your calendar, because coming up this Saturday, it's the April edition of the Handicapping Series right here at the Clubhouse Racebook. The Turf Hop comes up this Saturday, April 5th. Again, Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. We'd love to have you come down and participate. Again, if you're a regular, you certainly have it marked on your calendar already. If you haven't played in the Handicapping Series, it's a lot of fun. Come on down here and enjoy it this Saturday at the Clubhouse Racebook. You can find more information at capitalotb.com. And the April events calendar is out. Do want to mention, besides the Turf Hop this Saturday, some of the other April events, Road to the Derby Appreciation Day at the Cortland branch. So Fan Appreciation Day at the Cortland OTB branch. There will be on Friday, April 18th, a Fan Appreciation Day at Star Plaza, the Star Plaza branch, kind of right around the corner here. There will also be, coming up on Friday, the 25th of April, a $500 happy hour bankroll right here at the Clubhouse Racebook. Mark that on your calendar. Showviver contests online, the 19th and the 26th. A knockout challenge on the website as well. That's next week, the Friday the 11th. So mark that. And don't forget, as always, closed, no horse racing wagering available in New York State. Palm Sunday the 13th and Easter Sunday the 20th, which I continue to say, complete anachronism. I don't even mind that there's not racing. I just wish they'd do away with the law that says you can't have racing and you can't have wagering, when on Palm Sunday and Easter Sunday you can go into any convenience store and buy as many lottery tickets as you want. You can go up to the local racino and play the slot machines. But horse racing is a no-no. It's a complete anachronism in the law, because it just goes back years and years. And we, as I say, with gambling as a whole, we've gotten completely away from it. No legislator is willing to step up to the plate, though, and take a shot at that one. But I wish they'd address it. As I say, not necessarily, if they don't want to take a day off from racing, I'm fine with that. But it shouldn't be law. It shouldn't be mandated. If we can go out and play other forms of gambling, horse racing shouldn't be the exception in there. All right, off the soapbox. Jenny Reese came out with her Road to the Kentucky Derby update, and she noted some of this past weekend, the results, and who now holds a strong hand, et cetera, et cetera. But I found it notable. She's just got a lot of bullet points in a column. I have it linked over on Equidaily. But one of them is, and you know, certainly this was something that I think we're all kind of aware of, but she put it down in black and white. Tapit, Stallion Tapit, really a very good Derby season. Tapit, the sire of Constitution, Tapiture, Ring Weekend, Harpoon, and the Kentucky Oaks favorite, Untappable. So just also Tonalist, who unfortunately I thought might be interesting in the Wood this weekend, got knocked out of the Wood with a little bit of a lung infection. So that's unfortunate. But boy, Tappet really just putting together a great season as a sire with the 3-year-olds. Also notable, according to the column, Pittsburgh Steelers former quarterback Terry Bradshaw. He's actually a partner in Constitution. So keep that in mind. If Constitution makes it to the Kentucky Derby, and it certainly looks like that's the game plan now, probably see Terry Bradshaw popping around and getting interviewed. Mentioned it on the Handicappers Report earlier. The Maryland Racing Circuit moves their racing to Pimlico starting tomorrow. We'll talk to Dave Rodman tomorrow, get a little more info, but it's notable on the betting side. Keep this in mind. The Jackpot Pick 5 they have down there. Pimlico plays Jackpot Pick 5. It is one of these jackpot bets, as the name suggests, where it pays off the whole pool to a single winner. If there's not a single winner, there's a consolation. Pool then rolls over to the next day. But interesting this year, they're making it a dime bet. Had been a 50-cent bet, moves down to a dime. And so to me, that's going to be a little bit intriguing. I'm sure I'll take some shots. Also notable, they're kind of seeding things, it seems like, from opening day tomorrow through May 3rd. Any bettor with a unique 10-cent winning ticket will receive a minimum of $50,000. So again, these jackpot bets take a while to reach a point where they start to become really intriguing because it's completely counterintuitive. So on day one, if you hit a grand slam and you have the only ticket, you don't want to walk away with a small prize. And so, as I say, it kind of takes a while to get some juice and build that pot up to where people are playing, and then the consolation becomes interesting. But essentially, Pimlico seeding things right now with a $50,000 minimum through May 3rd, if any bettor does come up with that single winning ticket. So that'll then get the folks jumping in who are going to try for that single winner, which should make the consolation pot kind of interesting as well. So maybe this will be an interesting idea for some of these jackpot bets moving forward at various tracks. We'll see. I'll see how the experiment works down at Pimlico. But again, that Pimlico Pick 5 starting tomorrow, a 10-cent bet now. So that could be kind of fun. The fallout reaction, I guess, to the Dubai World Cup kind of continues. It's been interesting leading into it and coming out of it with regard to the Tapeta surface. I said it over the last couple of days with some of the guests. To me, the World Cup itself was a little bit uninspiring, although there were races on the card that I found interesting. And there have been commentaries by some of the pundits saying similar things, some agreeing, some disagreeing. But it was interesting, one of the writers in the South China Morning Post, and they regularly cover racing in Hong Kong. They have a couple of columnists and opinion writers there that mostly focus on Hong Kong racing. But given there was some Hong Kong connections over in Dubai, and that Dubai is such a big night internationally, one of their writers in the South China Morning Post had a story in. And boy, he took a little bit of a shot at the Tapeta surface. I'll quote, it is Alan Aitken, who, again, writes regularly in the South China Morning Post about racing from Hong Kong. But his story on the Dubai World Cup, it's called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly of World Cup Night in Dubai. Quote from the middle of the article, and then there's the Tapeta track, where winners don't ever seem to come much back than the first four. Tapeta, like every other artificial surface, seems to have passed through the usual phases. Gift from God, still settling in, maintenance issues, and finally, discredited goat track. So clearly, Mr. Aitken, not a fan of the synthetic surfaces. He then talks about the potential for moving away from Tapeta, but like some of the other commentators over the past couple of days, then questions, does it become a dirt surface? And if it's a dirt surface, would it just be favoring U.S. runners? Is that what you want? So it's been an interesting little debate leading into it, and certainly after the World Cup over the past couple of days among some of the pundits. There was another article out where the Timeform folks, the British racing analysts essentially, putting numbers, Timeform numbers on races around the world. They've done a little bit of an analysis of the Dubai World Cup meeting. They called the Dubai World Cup meeting as never having been short of its knockers. So have we seen anything different in 2014 as far as the World Cup itself is concerned? Almost certainly not. To be fair, African Story hasn't had many opportunities, but in running to a time form rating of 128, he hardly sets the world alight. So I found it interesting. The time form article goes on, and essentially they agree with kind of what my thoughts over the past couple of days. The World Cup itself, not that inspiring, but there were some races on the undercard. Just Away, the win from that one was very good. Gentle Donna, they give a nod to. So the undercard races had some international contenders that certainly were worth paying attention to going in, and then validated on Dubai World Cup night itself. But overall, the Dubai World Cup, again, lacks maybe a little bit of intrigue, interest, excitement coming out of it. And we'll see how it shakes out. A lot of that is being pointed at as a function of the surface. But as I noted, there's then some controversy about what do we do with that? Do we go away from the synthetics? And if you do you then favor the United States horses? And internationally, the opinion folks out there are not sure that's the way to go either. So we'll see how things shake out. No changes or comments, I'm sure, will be made for a while now. Things will settle down, and folks will kind of assess what happened at this year's Dubai World Cup. But we'll see. Did want to show a race that we might not have otherwise a chance to see during the week. Go back to the weekend, watch the stretch run here from the Broadway down at Aqueduct on Saturday. The Broadway $100,000 race for 3-year-old and up fillies and mares, 6 furlongs on the dirt. The number 4, La Verdad, is going to get it done, as you see, over a track labeled Sloppy and Sealed. The disappointment in here, Risky Rachel, who had been racing down at Tampa first couple of starts of the season, 2 big wins. Daniel Centino came up to ride. Risky Rachel, the one horse you can see there on the Chiclets, winds up finishing last in this field. Disappointing as the second choice at 5-2. But the winner, very impressive, coast to coast for La Verdad, for Linda Rice. And La Verdad is certainly a horse with a future. This is a 4-year-old filly going into the race, 7 starts, 5 wins, and a second place finish. The only off-the-board finish was the career debut last year in March. Since then, very, very good. And this is clearly a 4-year-old filly sprinter worth paying attention to. La Verdad, 4-5 favorite on Saturday, absolutely lived up to that in the Broadway. So I just wanted to give you a chance to see that because, again, she's going to turn out to be a nice one. Talk a little bit about this, certainly with Jeremy Plonk, but the trainer of Toast of New York, the winner of the UAE Derby. They clearly have enough points. That was a 100-point Kentucky Derby race over in Dubai, the UAE Derby. Toast of New York won, and clearly has the points. And then now the trainer, reading the tea leaves here, there's a Racing Form article by Jay Privman, and they quote the trainer as saying, "We haven't ruled anything in or out with regards to coming to the Kentucky Derby." But then you read some more of the quotes, and he's talking about maybe it's coming up a little too quick and all the travel involved. My feeling is they're probably tilting against, if you read between the lines here. But it's interesting that they're not ruling it out. So the winner of the UAE Derby, possible for the Kentucky Derby. We'll see how that does shake out. And have it linked over on Equidaily today. Jenny Reese posted it via her Courier Journal blog. But the latest Las Vegas odds for the Kentucky Derby. Kind of interesting to see what Vegas is doing with the odds. Cairo Prince, 7-1. California Chrome, 8-1. She-2, 20-1. Constitution, 30-1. General A-Rod, 45-1. Opportunity, 14-1. Some more of the latest Vegas Derby odds. Midnight Hawk, 25-1. Ride on Curlin, 30-1. Samrot, he'll be going this weekend in the Wood, 30-1. Social Inclusion, 22-1. Tapiture, 12-1. Vickers in Trouble, 28-1. Vickers in Trouble. And Wildcat Red, maybe even more impressive. Wildcat Red, 45-1. So the folks in Vegas not buying into Wildcat Red. I've been a little dicey myself. I want to see him do it away from Gulfstream Park. But Wildcat Red and General A-Rod both sitting at 45-1, despite having run impressively in the series of races down at Gulfstream. All right, we'll take our first break. When we come back, it will be Jeremy Plonk, horseplayernow.com, and Countdown to the Crown. We'll talk some 3-year-olds right after this.
Missed one of our TV shows? No worries. Now you can catch all your favorite programs online. Simply log on to CapitalOTB.com and click on the YouTube link at the bottom of the homepage. And look for our new podcast coming soon. CapitalOTB.com. Log on today.
The Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back. That's right. The 2014 Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back, and it's your chance to win thousands in cash and prizes, and a seat at the 2015 Handicapping Championship in Las Vegas. This month's contest is the Turf Hop on April 5th. So sign up today, online at CapitalOTB.com, or stop in at the Clubhouse Racebook.
The future of online betting is here, and only at the all-new CapitalOTBBet.com. With a newly designed and engineered internet wagering platform, enhanced video streaming, additional funding options, and 3 new individual wagering opportunities, CapitalOTBBet.com delivers a state-of-the-art wagering experience found nowhere else in horse racing. Combine that with our all-new mobile website. You have 2 of the most powerful, innovative, and advanced wagering platforms available today. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
It's called the fastest 2 minutes in sports, and the tradition continues Saturday, May 3rd with the 140th running of the Kentucky Derby. If you can't make it to the Clubhouse Racebook in Albany, you can still be a part of the action by visiting one of our many Easy Bet or branch locations conveniently located throughout upstate New York. For a complete list of our Easy Bet and branch locations, log on to CapitalOTB.com. Capital OTB and CapitalOTBBet.com. The most convenient ways to wager on all the Triple Crown races.
I'm Anthony Mormino. Join me weekdays at 9 for the Handicappers Report. We'll handicap the top tracks across the country and help you prepare for the day in racing. That's the Handicappers Report, weekdays at 9, only on the OTB TV network.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Happy to be joined now, as we are every Wednesday morning, Jeremy Plonk, horseplayernow.com, and Countdown to the Crown. Good morning, Jeremy.
Good morning, Seth. Good to be with you.
And I always like to do a little recap. I did a little preview yesterday on the show. Hopefully pushed a little group of folks over to the night school last night, because it sounded like a good session. Give us a little recap, because the night school topic last night, very timely, with Keeneland right around the corner, Woodbine right around the corner, turf and synthetic handicapping.
Yeah, and the turf courses are opening up around the country. I know Pimlico's going to run the first turf races in Maryland this Saturday coming up on their opening weekend. So we try to make the calendar and the lessons kind of correspond to what's new and what's hot in racing at the time, and look ahead to that. And last night we had Katie Gensler from Keeneland, the paddock handicapper, and Dawn Lupel from Woodbine, the paddock handicapper, there on. So it was ladies' night, if you will, on night school, and they did a great job kind of outlining what they look for in the different turf races and synthetic races at their particular venues. And then in general, of course, Katie's worked at Presque Isle. She's also worked at Arlington in the past. So she's got some experience on multiple synthetic surfaces and following the racing there. A good session. The archives are now up. If you're an iPad or iPhone listener, the archives are up now that you can listen to it in iTunes. And if you're a regular computer listener, there's a link to that too. Just go to horseplayernow.com, click on the night school, open the chat box, and the very first entry, we always update each week with the link to the archive. So you can listen into the show last night. A really good exchange. Kate and Bradar, myself, and Steve Vick during the first segment talked about our approaches. And we really got into why synthetic racing is different and turf racing is different. And Steve really had some interesting points on kind of the mechanics of horses' running styles and why some take to it. Even I learned a little something there, you know, as a guy who's a handicapper for, you know, going on 30-plus years now, you know, most of my life. It's fun when I learn something new, that somebody tells me something I never thought of, and I got some of that last night, and I thought I knew quite a bit.
Yeah, and to me, synthetics got a bad rap from the beginning. I'm not sure they're for every racetrack, but I think they have a place, and I like that overseas they're labeled all-weather surfaces, because I think that's their place in the industry. I think there are some tracks where they do very well because they stand up to the weather in some locations.
Well, we talked about the Queen's Plate last year with Dawn. I'm telling you, it was Noah's Ark proportions rain up there right before the Queen's Plate midday. And I don't think there's a racetrack with dirt in the world that would have put on that racing show that day. Yet there they were, after the deluge, they had a turf race, a slight delay, and then they came back and ran the Queen's Plate, incident-free and an honestly run race on a racetrack that was safe, and you would not have run that. I mean, a dirt track absolutely would have washed away, I believe, with that kind of rain.
Yeah, and again, so I think there is a place. I think it's unfortunate. They rushed out in California, and now I think the California situation has been a real knock on synthetic surfaces in Southern California. Northern California, I think Golden Gate is doing fine. But again, I think they have a place, and it's come back in the news, though, over the past week or so, and over the past few days in particular, because I just read at the top of the show, a commentator out of Hong Kong taking a little knock, and that has been the case with a few of the pundits over the past few days. Meidan and their synthetic surface. This year, the World Cup was a little uninspiring, perhaps. All of the undercard races were interesting. So the synthetic surfaces have gotten a knock. But right from the beginning, a lot of bettors didn't like to play. And for me, they were difficult as well. But I said, once you had that database put together that you could really work on, I think for me, handicapping it was just the same puzzle that you have every day.
It is, and I agree with that. And more information is the whole key. And it just takes time, to build up that kind of trust and confidence in what you've seen over and over again. And two, let's not forget, in America where the synthetic tracks really took the biggest hit, Southern California and Keeneland in terms of reputation, there were two no bigger speed-biased, speed-influenced racing circuits in America than Keeneland's old days and Southern California racing, where the emphasis is 100% on speed horses. Well, if synthetic tracks kind of level the playing field, the kickback isn't as abrasive as it is on dirt, and the closers have more of a chance to kind of be comfortable in their running style in behind instead of falling 6-8 lengths behind because they don't want the sand hitting them on the kickback. It really changes the dynamic of races. And I think because they went in those particular spots, that's where you heard the outcry so bad, because it really did absolutely do a 180-degree change to how you handicap those particular circuits. Had they went in somewhere, like a Woodbine per se, you don't hear the complaints at Woodbine about it nearly as much. A lot more turf breeding, less speed up there, and so therefore it was more of a natural transition to handicappers perhaps who play that particular circuit. So, where they went in was probably as much to do with the outcry as what was put in.
Yeah, that's a great point. I would totally agree with that. You had a couple of surfaces, or a couple of circuits, I guess, when you include the tracks that's in Southern California, but they were very much speed-oriented. So for handicappers, it really turned everything upside down. And as you say, the other tracks, there hasn't been as much pushback, certainly, or as much conversation.
And trainers and breeders, too, and that's where a lot of the pushback came as well. The Bob Bafferts of the world, you just don't go out and work 47 halves all the time. And try to blaze away on the synthetics. It's not the same kind of ball game. So, it really did change the culture for a lot of folks. And I do feel, just from an editorial point, I do feel the swing going back the other direction. Obviously, with Del Mar pulling up their synthetic racetrack, it seems as though Breeders' Cup has kind of, made it, fairly known, whether it's been publicly stated or not, that, the synthetic tracks aren't going to be in play for a Breeders' Cup. I think we're heading back to dirt racing, which, from a safety standpoint, if you look at the study that was released earlier this week or late last week, the number of catastrophic breakdowns is absolutely, unequivocally, been safer on the synthetic surfaces, and there's enough data there to make that a statement that's pretty firm now. So, it's a tale of two discussions. Do you want to talk the safety end of it, or do you want to talk consumer confidence end? And, I think I think they're going to lean to going back towards dirt in most places.
Yeah, and as I say, I think it's unfortunate because I do think it has a place in racing, but we'll see how it works out over the next year or so. Jeremy, before we get to the racing, one more topic I wanted to touch on. I noted yesterday, went over to horseplayernow.com, and you have introduced a brand new product. If folks go to horseplayernow.com, they can pick it up. I also have it linked on Equidale. You can find it there. The Horse Player Now digital magazine. Give us a little bit of the background. What was the impetus and what's the mission?
Well, the mission is to make people more confident. It's all about consumer confidence for me, and for us as fan educators and player development folks with programs like the Night School and with this new Horse Player Now magazine. The idea is to put good racing information in people's hands, build brand awareness for what we're doing in fan education, and to provide horse players something good at a fair price, which in my estimation is free in racing. I think information for racing should be free for the most part. If you want to pay for selections and analysis and things like that, that's a different story. But I think as a racing industry, we have a job to teach people the game, and it's our job to sell it then within the industry. So this publication is not a free promotional publication; it's a free publication. As long as we print it, it will be free. As long as we produce it, it will be free. It's a digital format. We looked at it in what is the most cost-effective and the most timely ways of doing a publication like this that we can distribute to the fans. And it's going to be a monthly. It'll be produced on the first of the month each month. For the May issue, we're going to come out a day early. We're going to come out the last day of April, which will be draw day for the Kentucky Derby, so that we can have our Derby preview up a little bit sooner. So our next issue, again, will be produced on Wednesday of Derby week, so you'll have it in advance of all the stuff going on in Kentucky Derby week. And it'll be a monthly publication from this point forward, and we're sponsor-driven, and we're proud of the folks who have supported it, and we'll be out selling it hard as well so that we can continue to do it for everyone. It's a quality publication, really good good writers, good information, good photography, a lot of stuff you can use. And our Horse Player Now Buzz service that we have is like a daily Horses to Watch. We're putting a free play of the day on page 7 of the magazine every single day. So we change which page 7 of the magazine will be every day. Go back in and check it out every day, and you'll get a free horse to watch every single racing day of the month.
Ooh, nice. Page 7. I like that. Easy to remember.
Yep.
And again, I pulled it up yesterday, looked through it. Really nice, as you say. Looks great. There's some great information. Your computer, your mobile device, or whatever, give it a try. All right, Jeremy, let's get into some of the racing from this past weekend. Obviously, we are now well on our way. We're in the 100-point races. A couple of them this past weekend. Some more coming up this weekend. We would hope things would be more defined. For me, they weren't necessarily this weekend. And first up, we're going to look at the Florida Derby down at Gulfstream. Grade 1, $1 million, mile and an eighth. My poll as a participant at the ESPN Derby poll, I wasn't that excited about either of the races this weekend. Between the two, this one was a little more interesting for me. And we're watching number 4, Constitution, cut the corner there, duel it out with Wildcat Red, the number 1 horse. Number 6, General A-Rod, will run third. And number 3, Cairo Prince, a little bit disappointing in fourth. Again, I want to see these top 3 do it away from Gulfstream. I'm just not totally convinced, but I'm looking at your Courier Journal top 20. You've got Constitution 6, Wildcat Red 9, General A-Rod 10. So you came away a little more confident out of this Florida Derby.
Well, I don't know about that. I think the Florida Derby for me is a little bit what you're saying. Is I need to see it again. I feel good about the top 4 horses in the country. After that, I think you can throw a lot of them in a hat, and I'm not really sure where to go with them. So Constitution in that mix of, okay, he won the Florida Derby. He was the best horse to come out of that region based on this particular race. Because you say, well, okay, he got a dream trip. He got in through the rail, that sort of deal like that. But let's also say this. He was giving away a lot of experience. He was giving away seasoning. So he overcame a lot of things that Wildcat Red, General A-Rod had been racing through. So while he did have the advantageous trip and saved some ground, he also fought his rider a lot early, and Javier Castellano really won the wrestling match with him. Castellano hadn't won a major prep all year. He was zigging and zagging off the wrong horse every race. He would ride a good horse, then get off of him, and that horse would go ahead and win one of the big preps. So it was the first win on the season for him. And it came aboard a Todd Pletcher trainee, which might end up being, his Kentucky Derby mount. He may have found that mount, but it took him all the way to the last day of March to do so. This was a good effort. I'm just not floored by anything that I saw in the Florida Derby. Wildcat Red is what he is. He's tougher than I thought he was. He can run a little farther than I thought he could, and he's a solid horse. But I just can't say that I'm going to put him on my tickets in Kentucky. He just doesn't feel like that kind of horse. I think General A-Rod has the best pedigree with that Dynaformer on the bottom. He's run well at Churchill in the fall. That doesn't always translate to Churchill in the spring. It's a different kind of surface in the way they water at that time of year. And the spring surface is a lot faster than the cuppy, loose surface that they have in the fall at Churchill. So I caution people to say that, because General A-Rod ran well at Churchill in the past, he's going to love it in the spring. That's not always the case there. But if you told me who is the horse that you're probably going to bet in the Derby out of the Florida Derby, it would probably still be General A-Rod. But he had every chance and just didn't fire. I was expecting to see a little bit more out of him. He didn't get embarrassed in the race, but he didn't run great either. So I'm kind of black coming out of the Florida Derby. I don't know what to do with any of them. Cairo Prince, you expected to see a little bit more, but at the same time, you look at it and say, he hadn't run in 2 months, and what did they expect? And so fast horses were in front of him, and fast horses finished in front of him, and so he was fourth. He's going to become the Thunder Gulch of this year, I can tell you that. I mean, if he wins the Florida Derby, Cairo Prince is probably 7-2, 4-1 favorite for the Kentucky Derby, somewhere in that ballpark, unless somebody in California does something freakish next week, or Social Inclusion does something freakish. This horse will probably be the favorite. Coming off a fourth, and if he kind of slides in as one of the lower number, points horses for the Derby, Cairo Prince is going to be 15-20-1 in the Kentucky Derby now, just like we saw with Thunder Gulch when he paid 40+ back in '95. If you like Cairo Prince and he works really strong between now and the Derby, you're going to get paid if you stick with him and you're loyal to him. I'm not quite sure. I really don't know what to make of him. The works are going to tell me everything between now and then.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat on Cairo Prince. Although you said the horse you would probably bet would be General A-Rod, Cairo Prince will be the one out of this race that I would probably bet on exactly what you said, the Thunder Gulch angle, the what have you done for me lately. The question mark, of course, is going to be he's a bubble horse now with the 24 points, so we'll see how that shakes out over the next 4 prep races.
One quick point on the point system. I've long advocated the points and the dollars and everything are much ado about nothing. There've only been a handful of horses in the history of the Derby have been excluded. It's not like 32 of them ever enter the race. The most horses ever excluded in the history of the Derby were 4. And out of those 4, 3 of them were complete bums that had no really reason to even be in the entry box. So, you're not going to see. It still costs $30,000 to start and enter the Derby. So people just don't spend $30,000 plus all the travel expense to go there and get shellacked. It's just not historically true. So while these lists are nice that have 62 horses on them or whatever like that who have points for the Derby, there's never more than 20 to 24 who want to get in. So I think Cairo Prince with that point total will probably be fine. There'll be some natural attrition between now and then. You got a horse like a Midnight Hawk. I don't think Midnight Hawk is guaranteed to run in the Derby. I think he'll be like Governor Charlie last year in that Baffert had a horse come out of Sunland. He knows he's not a mile and a quarter horse, and he'll save him, and maybe they'll use Midnight Hawk for their horse to possibly, Opportunity for the Pegram Watson group is going to be their Derby horse, so they don't need to send Midnight Hawk per se, and maybe they'll just go to the Preakness with Midnight Hawk. So those kind of horses, I think, will fall off some of the lists, that we see now.
And I made the point yesterday. I pulled up the leaderboard from exactly this weekend last year, and the last horse to make it in the gate last year was Golden Soul with 14 points. At this time last year, he was 24 on the list.
Right.
So clearly there will be some defections up at the top, and it's just going to depend a little bit on this week if Cairo Prince gets leapfrogged. But again, if he gets leapfrogged by 8 horses, up in that top, there'll be at least 4 that'll go by the wayside in some form or another. So I'm with you. I think he probably is going to get in, but he is a little bit of a bubble horse now.
And it's kind of like the NCAA tournament, when you're watching those conference championship games and the team that's got a 500 record is going against the league champion and you're a bubble team, you're hoping that league champion wins because they were probably going to get in anyway. And so, you're looking for Tapiture to win the Arkansas Derby if you're Cairo Prince. He's already got enough points based on, what he's done early in the year. You're looking for Opportunity, who's already got 50, or the California Chrome, who's already got 50 to win the Santa Anita Derby. You want those horses who are below you not to be scoring.
Exactly. All right, let's shift our attention now over to Fairgrounds on Saturday. And as I say, between the 2 races, I had come out of the weekend with a little more confidence, perhaps with the Florida runners. Not to take anything away. Vickers in trouble with a little trouble at the start for the other speed. Vickers in trouble gets out there under Rosie Napravnik as the number 6 horse, and we'll see this one get it done pretty nicely for Ken Ramsey and Mike Maker. Running second will be the Pletcher horse, Intense Holiday, under Mike Smith. West Point's Commanding Curve. A nice effort to run third in here. But as I say, coming out of this event, I'm not convinced that I'll be on board any of these moving forward to the Kentucky Derby. What was your takeaway from the Louisiana Derby?
Very similar. Very similar. I mean, I watched the race. The result wasn't totally surprising based on what we've seen. The Comte winner beats the Risen Star winner, the 2 horses who had won the major preps at Fairgrounds. The surprise for me was Vickers in trouble, running as well as he did. He was there at Fairgrounds. He had a foot problem. Mike Maker took him from the assistant Joe Sharp and brought him to Gulfstream. He said, well, if you're going to go back to Gulfstream, why would you, or if you're going to go back to Fairgrounds, why would you leave Fairgrounds when you've been there all year? He brought him to Gulfstream to get him under his care. He popped an abscess, as Ken Ramsey told the Lexington Herald leader. And that's kind of information that wasn't out and widely distributed throughout the media, but the Herald leader did have that. And that's really the reason I picked against the horse, and it turned out Maker got the foot right. They wanted to go to the Sunland Derby the week before, and the foot didn't get, it didn't get healed fast enough. So sometimes plans work out all right, Instead of the Sunland Derby, they ended up winning the Louisiana Derby on Plan B, going back to where they were all along throughout the winter. So, I didn't know he had that kind of effort in him. You knew he was talented based on the way he ran in the Lecomte. His Risen Star was, maybe a bounce. Maybe he wasn't, maybe it just wasn't his day. Maybe the foot problem was already starting to surface a little bit on the day that he ran third. Vickers in Trouble's a nice horse. I mean, does he belong in the Kentucky Derby? Absolutely. He's one of the 20 best horses, and for me, he kind of sits in that middling range, 12 to 13, 14, something like that, if you want to rank the contenders. He's a solid horse. Intense Holiday seems to run every time. He's a consistent sort. He's the kind of horse you want to have in your Kentucky Derby plays. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Invisible Ink for Pletcher a couple years ago, or going back quite a few years now, was second to Giacomo, I believe, or to Monarchos, I believe, in 2001, Invisible Ink. And so, he's a price horse from a good barn who always seems to run a pretty decent race. He's not the fastest horse in the world. He's going to need the pace to kind of melt down a little bit to run his best race. He's not going to track fast horses and punch by him. And I think that's what happened in the Louisiana Derby, is there were some decent horses in front of him, and it's just not his style to kind of run that way, and he was a little erratic in the stretch. He definitely took a step backwards. I mean, he didn't advance off his Risen Star. But if you want to kind of play it, analytically, he didn't need the points. The Risen Star gave him enough points to already be in the Derby. This was just one of those, hey, we're running for $1 million. He's won over the track. We're going back there. But if the big goal is the Kentucky Derby, which I'm sure it is for his connections, then, maybe the screws weren't super tight on him, and it was still it was still a decent effort. So I didn't drop Intense Holiday all that far, and as a Kentucky Derby contender, I still rank him ahead of Vickers in Trouble. I just think he's going to handle the distance a little more, and he's got the consistency on his side. He consistently fires a pretty decent shot. If you're betting a superfecta in the Kentucky Derby, I think you'll want to use Intense Holiday on the bottom because he's going to be 20-1, and he's going to be a decent price, and he kind of always shows up. Will he win the Kentucky Derby? I don't think so.
All right, let's shift our attention to the more intriguing of the trio of derbies on the weekend. Go over to Dubai World Cup night, the undercard, the UAE Derby. We're going to watch Toast of New York, the number 8 horse, get it done here. And subsequently, there's been an article in the Racing Forum by Jay Privman talking to the connections who say they haven't made a decision. Reading between the lines, it sounds like they're tilting against, but they're leaving the possibility of Kentucky Derby open. This horse clearly has enough points to get in. Sunday morning, my partner here on the network, Steve Bick, was kind of intrigued by this horse. This is a Kentucky bred. He thought the breeding was maybe a little bit interesting, and Toast of New York could be intriguing in the Kentucky Derby. I'd have a tough time pulling the trigger. We see this one winning, again, the UAE Derby over a synthetic. That is the 4th synthetic start in 5 career starts. The other one was on the turf, and we're over in Great Britain and tracks like Wolverhampton, Kempton, Leicester, not the A-level tracks over there. Boy, if this horse makes it into the gate, I would really have a tough time pulling the trigger.
No, I mean, I wouldn't bet him with your money. I mean, it's just one of those situations where, Godolphin's brought Blue Bloods over, who even had some experience in the U.S., like a Worldly Manor, years ago, and Coolmore has brought over Blue Bloods who have had experience in the U.S., like a Daddy Longlegs and some horses in recent years, Master of Hounds. Now you're going to take a horse from Wolverhampton who won by 12 and 15 on the synthetic over there against, C-level competition. This wasn't a great UAE Derby. It wasn't a great card for the Dubai World Cup program. Very few of the races. The Shima Classic was outstanding, and the Duty Free were outstanding. I thought there were 2 really good races on the card, and the rest of them were well below par for what we're used to seeing on that program. The UAE Derby included in that. Not a good UAE Derby at all in my mind, and so, he ran away with a bad race, and, the connections aren't interested in running back super fast the way that it sounds. It sounds like the race will come up quick for them, and I hope they stay home. I really do. I mean, that would be... There's another one, 100-pointer on the list. You bring him off the list and you get Cairo Prince one closer to being in the race, or anybody else. I'm not making any case for Cairo Prince to get in the race because it's its own connection's fault for the plan that they mapped out. They put their eggs in the wrong basket and they'll have to hope they get in. But, you know, I don't want to see Toast of New York in the Kentucky Derby, you know. He's not for me.
Yeah, I agree. Now let's shift our attention to this coming weekend. Get some of your thoughts on the upcoming Wood Memorial and Santa Anita Derby. While we talk about the Wood, we'll go back to the Gotham March 1st. And I think this is kind of a scenario a little bit interesting. We're going to watch the 1A Samrat get it done over the number 4 Uncle Si. And I think these are horses that, to me, are maybe a little bit similar to Wildcat Red and General A-Rod down at Gulfstream. I think these are horses that have done everything that's been asked of them so far, but folks still aren't necessarily convinced on these two. There'll be a couple of performers coming up in what is shaping up to be a really intriguing Wood Memorial.
Yeah, and when you take the intersectional matchups there and you say, okay, well, Wildcat Red and General A-Rod, they keep running against each other, throw in a Cairo Prince, you know, then the new shooter comes along, Constitution, and beats all of them. Well, then you look at the same thing with these couple horses, you know, Samrat and Uncle Si. They've gone against each other. Now it's the third time. We don't have a whole lot of intersexual comparisons, except when you look at In Trouble, the third horse in that photo finish that you're looking at from the Gotham. You know, he ran a clunker in the Louisiana Derby and was overmatched by those horses. So was it a bounce from In Trouble? Was it a matchup situation? Did he not take to the track? Or are those horses not quite as good as horses in some other parts of the country? We don't know that going into the Wood, but we're going to find out afterwards because you're going to get Cristo in there from California. He's going to give you a little bit of a cross-section. You're going to get some horses up from Florida in the race and, you know, social inclusion in that mix. So we're going to learn everything we need to learn after the Wood Memorial. I wish I had a more definitive statement on those two horses going into it. Right now, I dropped them both significantly. I mean, I put them towards the bottom of my top 20. I had Samrat, I want to say, somewhere in the 10, 11, 12 range last week, and Uncle Si around 16 or 17. And basically, I've got it as, in my mind now, I don't like the Gotham anymore. And it's a situation where, look, they've got enough points, both probably, to get in the Derby already, so they're part of your top 20 because they're going to be in the field. But I don't like the race at this point. Now, they've got a chance to change that if they go ahead and run a big race and beat those, you know, Florida and California invaders in the Wood, then they can kind of, you know, reestablish themselves up the mix. You know, it's hard to say anything bad about Samrat. I mean, come on, the horse is 5 for 5. He's done everything anybody's asked of him. You know, he shipped back and forth from Florida and New York, and, you know, he's a good horse. He's a good horse. But, you know, we're splitting hairs with some of these. But like I told you earlier, I like the front 4 on my poll. After number 4, you could change around, you know, you could change out Samrat and Wildcat Red, and I wouldn't complain. You could change out Commissioner, who was off the board, you know, and trying to get his way back into the Derby mix, and I wouldn't be, you know, upset. I think Candy Boy, California Chrome, Opportunity, and Tapiture are solid horses at the top 4. After that, I really don't know.
Well, let's talk about Candy Boy and California Chrome, because I don't think you're alone putting Candy Boy on the top of your list. Some of the other lists I've looked at are right in the same ballpark. So Southern California may come into the Derby with some very potent horses as far as the pundits are concerned, and that could be validated this coming Saturday with the Santa Anita Derby. While we talk, we're going to look at the last race from Candy Boy. That was back on February 8th, so he's been off a while, but this is the Bob Lewis #1 Candy Boy. We'll get it done under Gary Stevens for trainer John Sadler. And again, he's at the top of your list. What are your preview thoughts as far as the Santa Anita Derby?
Well, I've had him on top since that race back in February. He's been #1 in Countdown to the Crown for, you know, over almost 2 months now. And so some of the others have kind of slid to the top by attrition. You've seen other horses that you didn't like. I've always liked this one. You know, I'm tickled pink that Bayern is not in the Santa Anita Derby because it doesn't put Gary Stevens in the pickle to have to choose between Candy Boy and Bayern. And so I think that was a big reason why Bob Baffert is sending that horse to California, honestly. And so, you know, Candy Boy gets Gary Stevens again. I think that's very important. And Gary knows the horse very well. And if he wins the Santa Anita Derby, you know, he's going to be, you know, one of the favorites for the Kentucky Derby. He's got to do it, you know, as far as the points go. He only has a handful of points. I think he's got something like 10 or something like that, you know, at this point for that win because it was early in the season. You know, he's got to finish in the top 3 to move on to Kentucky, and if he doesn't finish in the top 3, he probably doesn't belong anyway. So, you know, I think he's going to run a really good race on Saturday. I think he needs the race probably a little bit more than the other two. California Chrome's, you know, securely in based on his win in the San Felipe. Art Sherman wasn't really even sure he was going to run in this race for a couple weeks before deciding to go. So it's almost one of those, let's just get the horse maybe to Kentucky. So California Chrome may not be completely, you know, hammered down on for Saturday. Opportunity for Baffert's definitely in the same boat. Baffert didn't want to ship him a third time out of the region. You know, he went to Fairgrounds for the Risen Star, then he went to Oak Lawn for the Rebel, and now he's, you know, staying home and not traveling again. He's already secure on points. He's one of Baffert's best route prospects for the Triple Crown. Looking at Lucky, you know, and Opportunity probably in the last decade are as good a route prospect for pedigree as Baffert sent down the Derby Trail. So Opportunity doesn't need a huge effort on Saturday. He just needs to kind of run 1, 2, 3, 4 and show that he's moving forward, and he'll kind of have that real quiet, you know, Silver Charm kind of profile for Baffert that didn't need to win at the end of the season and didn't win the Santa Anita Derby. So I think any one of those top three are going to finish 1, 2, 3 in some shape or form. School of Hard Rocks looks good out there in California. He's getting a lot of talk. You know, he ran decent in the San Felipe in the comeback. It wouldn't be a shock if he sneaks into the top 3 over one of these horses. You know, which one of them would be supplanted out of the trifecta, you know, I'm not quite sure. But I think all three, you know, are legitimate Kentucky Derby hopefuls, and I think you'll see them all move on.
Sounds good, and certainly next week we'll do a little recap of those races as it is getting to be that time of year. Things are heating up. It's getting to be a lot of fun. Jeremy, as always, we appreciate the visit. Once again, I'll tell people, pop on over to horseplayernow.com and pull up the debut issue of the digital magazine Horse Player Now. And again, Jeremy, appreciate the visit. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, take care, everyone.
Thanks a lot. Jeremy Plonk. All right, we'll take our next break. When we come back, John Barile, the Tampa Bay Handicapper.com. Tampa Bay thoughts right after this.
The future of online betting is here, and only at the all-new CapitalOTBBet.com. CapitalOTBBet.com delivers a state-of-the-art wagering experience found nowhere else in horse racing. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Fascinated by the world of horse racing? Interested in honing your handicapping skills? Class is in session. Night school, Monday nights. Easy to access online. It's free, interactive, and informative for the casual and serious race fan. Horse Player Now Buzz. Live horses to watch emailed to you daily. Our eyes, your prize. Night School in the Buzz. Visit horseplayernow.com for details.
Each morning on the OTB TV network, you get the very best in horse racing programming. Weekdays begin with the Handicappers Report, where professional handicappers share their selections and analysis of the day's racing. Followed by Racing Across America, a daily conversation with racing personalities from around the country. Saturdays include Down the Stretch, where Mark Casano speaks with the biggest names in racing. And Sunday mornings, it's Loose on the Lead, where Steve Bick and I offer news and a unique lineup of weekly guests. All here on the OTB TV network.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
It's called the fastest 2 minutes in sports, and the tradition continues Saturday, May 3rd with the 140th running of the Kentucky Derby. And there's only one place to watch it, the Clubhouse Racebook. To be a part of the excitement, reserve your seat today by calling 446-4010.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Happy to be joined now by John Barile from the Tampa Bay Downs Handicapper.com. Good morning, John.
Good morning.
Happy to have you on board, and I told people at the top of the show, I'll remind them again, you can find John's selections for Tampa Bay every racing day at the Tampa Bay Downs Handicapper.com. We're going to pick John's brain a little bit today down at Tampa. We'll kick things off in the third race. Third is an optional claimer, 75 tags, non-winners of one other than. These are 3-year-olds. They're going to go 6 furlongs. John, what are your thoughts in the third race today?
Well, we've got the Spinmeister on top here. It's Shipper from the Northlands for Rob Chabot. But he's been working very sharply at Tampa for the past 6 or 7 weeks. Actually went 5 clicks above par from the gate at 6 furlongs. And Chabot has a history of getting it done with right back and upper class types the last 3 meetings. And we made a crude track equalization adjustment on Spinmeister's last race at Northlands, and Son of a Gun comes up almost 5 clicks above par early. So it's a bit of a stretch coming up from Northlands, but we'll give Spinmeister a chance. And the other piece I like in there is the Derek Ryan piece, who's got the previously trained by Todd Pletcher. And if you recall, I think it was a Stone Street Pletcher horse that I touted a couple of weeks ago, came right back to win. And this is another one, only this time by way of Bayonne with Derek Ryan training. And both Ryan and Pletcher are 100% in the money with this angle here. Layoff, shipper, drop down, route to sprint. So we like the exacta with the Spinmeister and Wine Tipster in race 3.
Sounds good. 2-6 exacta. And you're right. You did talk a little bit about the Pletcher horse a couple of weeks ago. They got it done. And this, again, a Stone Street-owned runner, certainly a outfit that is tied in with Todd Pletcher. So interesting to see over Derek Ryan and Tampa off a little bit of a layoff since November, but a nice bullet work coming into this as well. All right, the 4th race this afternoon. This one's kind of interesting. A couple of these marathon races on the card today, one for the boys, one for the girls. Starter handicap at the 16 level. This one is for the fillies and mares. They're going to go about 1 1/8 miles on the grass. How'd you see the 4th?
Well, we're talking a mile and 3/8 on the grass today. And in my opinion, the racing secretary had to twist all kinds of arms to get this race filled, because for a start of 16, the field is very weak. I'm tossing the 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, and 10 just off them not having a class to be there. So by process of elimination, we went to Barron, who has a very poor strike rate with fastbacks, only 7%, but we tossed a 6. And Ferraro, who a lot of people at Tampa are keen on, Ferraro had very bad luck with first off the claim, winning only 2 of 19 tries at the last 6 meetings. So he gave Ferraro the toss, and that really left us with only 2 pieces, and that was Hensley and Downing. That's the 1 and 2. And both of them have had not much luck in the winner's circle on the lawn this year, but they're both 50% of the money on the grass, and both went with the portable rail at 30 feet last time. They won't be asked to run that extra ground today. And we think it's going to be a cush maker. Who is Lady Exacta Box here?
Sounds good. And in a field of 10, got 4-1 and 7-2. So I would think there would be a little bit of value in that exacta. So you got the 2, you got the 1 in there. We'll play that in the 4th. Going out to the 8th race this afternoon, the other marathon event. Again, about 1 3/8 miles on the turf. Starter handicap at the 16 level. This time it's the boys. Your thoughts in race 8?
Well, I've got It Takes Heart key in the action here. Bobby Raymond surprises regularly with this type. He's got a 36% win angle at average odds of 8-1. He was beaten by Barrel of Love in the last, and that one came back to be second last week, beaten by his half-brother Backaway with a par number. And Barrel of Love, if you recall, was a horse that beat my Charming Clyde, my top choice, a couple of weeks ago. And I was impressed by Barrel of Love's effort there. And I also like Hound Gun, goes for Dennis Manning. 50% win at the meeting with his non-layoff, non-shipping stretch-outs. And Ryan's average win payout at the last 3 meetings has been $19. This 7-year-old was beaten by Barrel of Love and Tom Proctor's nearly perfect Avanzari. Avanzari is 2 for 4, 4 for 4 in the money. It goes tomorrow on the lawn. And he's got Gallardo up. Gallardo has 28 wins on the lawn at the meeting. I definitely see this one being there. And just round it out with Rock Alex, who we had on top a couple of weeks ago. He's been making big numbers on the main track for months, and Santino Sticks on the switch to the lawn. Think maybe he can get it done. So we've got the 10 over the 2 and the 5 and the exacta.
Sounds good. All right, John, as always, we appreciate the visit. Again, John Burrell from the Tampa Bay Downs Handicapper.com. You can find his selections there each and every Tampa Bay Downs racing day. John, again, we appreciate the visit. We'll talk to you again down the road.
Have a great day. Good luck.
Thanks a lot. All right, we're going to wrap things up for Racing Across America for this Wednesday morning. Just want to note a couple of races coming up, a couple of stakes races of note coming up that I wanted to mention where the fields have already been drawn. Fields for most of the Saturday races will come out today, the Wood Memorial, the Santa Anita Derby. But Calder's Saturday card has already been drawn. Just wanted to note here, because it's a race we've talked about a little bit before. Calder Derby, $250,000. No grading, no points, but it does attract Ring Weekend. Ring Weekend, coming off the win in the Tampa Bay Derby, has enough points to get in. So Ring Weekend will go in the Calder Derby on Saturday. Our Caravan, who I found very intriguing in the career debut win at 35-1. Subsequently, in the Holy Bull and Fountain of Youth, hasn't really lived up to that. But I've said before, Michael Dilger, the trainer, has started to attract my attention over the past few months. The career debut says Our Caravan might be a little bit interesting, but certainly Claiborne, the Dale Romans runner who was 2 for 2 and won the Iroquois last September at Churchill Downs. This is the first race since then, but I find this an interesting spot for this horse to make the 3-year-old debut. So a nice full field, some intriguing entrants in there, mainly Ring Weekend in the Calder Derby. And on Friday, opening day at Keeneland, the Transylvania Grade 3 event for the 3-year-olds going 1 mile and a 16th on the turf. Medal Count, who had a little bit of buzz for Dale Romans going into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and did absolutely nothing there. And in a couple of 3-year-old starts, Optional Claiming win to start things off, and then 5th in the Fountain of Youth. But Medal Count getting back to the turf in the Transylvania is interesting. Pluvin for Chad Brown hasn't gotten it done in 2 starts since moving from Europe, but again, interesting. Tommy Proctor's Global View, Storming Inti, another one from Chad Brown, and Picosa from Todd Pletcher. The Graham Motion runner, can't help believing. Graham Motion just seems to be in a little bit of a zone lately, so we'll see what happens with him. Of course, Graham Motion, also the trainer of Wing Weekend. So again, a couple of stakes races from Friday and Saturday that have already been drawn and certainly have some intrigue. We'll talk more about those certainly as the week progresses. All right, I'm going to wrap things up for Racing Across America for this Wednesday morning. Thanks to Jeremy Plonk, HorsePlayerNow.com. Thanks to John Burrell from the Tampa Bay Downs Handicapper.com as well. We're here every Monday through Friday from 10 until 11 a.m. 9 o'clock every morning is the Handicapper Support. This morning, Anthony Mormino and I took a look at Aqueduct and Tampa Bay. Hopefully we gave you some good info, so enjoy the races, cash a few tickets. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.